Welcome to Democracy Roundtable. I'm Chris, and it's Wednesday, April 29th, 2026. We've got a packed show today, delving into critical issues shaping our nation's political landscape, from the very mechanics of our elections to the complexities of foreign policy and the future of our planet. We'll be looking at a crucial court battle over redistricting in Virginia, the ongoing scrutiny of media coverage surrounding President Trump's decision on Iran, and a stark warning about green energy policy from an unexpected voice. Nadia, great to have you back at the table.
Thanks, Chris. It's always great to be here, especially when the headlines feel so weighty. Each of these stories truly touches on fundamental questions about how our democracy functions, who holds power, and what kind of future we're building. I'm really looking forward to digging into them with you and our correspondents today.
Absolutely. Let's start with that first story out of Virginia, which is really a microcosm of the larger battles over electoral power. The Virginia Supreme Court is currently weighing the legality of a new congressional map, one that significantly favors Democrats and could really shift the balance in the U.S. House. Nadia, this isn't just about lines on a map, is it?
It's far from it, Chris. This is about the very architecture of representation. When one party can draw lines to effectively guarantee their dominance, it fundamentally undermines the idea of a truly competitive election and responsive government. The fact that a Republican challenge questions the proper constitutional procedure in getting this plan before voters, potentially rendering a statewide vote meaningless, is deeply concerning for democratic integrity.
That's exactly right. And to help us understand the legal intricacies here, we turn to our legal affairs correspondent, Sarah. Sarah, what exactly is at stake in this Virginia Supreme Court case? What's the constitutional procedure argument about, and what are the real-world implications if this map is struck down?
Thanks, Chris. This case is pivotal. The Republican challenge centers on whether the Democratic-led legislature followed the correct constitutional path in placing this redistricting amendment before the voters. Essentially, they're arguing that even if the voters approved it last week, the process itself was flawed from a constitutional standpoint. If the court agrees, it wouldn't just invalidate the map, it could invalidate the amendment that authorized the map in the first place, potentially throwing the state's entire electoral framework into chaos for the upcoming 2026 midterms and beyond. It's a high-stakes legal maneuver that could disenfranchise the will of the voters on a procedural technicality, which is a dangerous precedent.
So even if the voters cast their ballots, their decision could be undone by a court interpretation of the legislative process. That feels like a direct challenge to popular sovereignty.
It absolutely does, and it speaks to a broader strategy we're seeing, where legal challenges are used to bypass or override electoral outcomes. The implications for the 119th Congress and beyond are enormous, depending on how this impacts the House balance of power.
Precisely. This isn't just about Virginia. It sets a precedent for how far courts can go in second-guessing legislative and voter-approved processes, especially when partisan advantage is perceived.
A truly critical case to watch. Thank you, Sarah, for that insightful breakdown. Now let's shift gears to a different kind of scrutiny, one focused on the media itself. Our second article highlights criticism emerging around U.S. media's coverage of President Trump's decision to engage in war with Iran, specifically concerning the alleged role of Israel in influencing that decision. Nadia, this brings up immediate questions about press freedom and accountability.
It does, Chris, and it's a deeply troubling one. The idea that there might be a lack of transparency and scrutiny regarding such a monumental foreign policy decision, and even media self-censorship on the role of an ally, is a huge red flag. The public needs to understand all the factors influencing decisions that lead to war.
Indeed. To unpack this, let's bring in Andre, our contributor, who covers media and press freedom. Andre, what's your take on this criticism? Are we seeing a failure of the press to adequately challenge narratives or explore all angles, especially concerning sensitive geopolitical relationships? That's a powerful point, Andre. And to add the international dimension, Maya, our international affairs correspondent, how is this perceived globally? And what are the broader diplomatic implications of such allegations about Israel's influence on U.S. foreign policy, particularly concerning a conflict with Iran?
Chris, globally, these criticisms reinforce existing narratives about the U.S.'s foreign policy being overly influenced by external actors, particularly in the Middle East. For allies and adversaries alike, it creates questions about the true independence of American decision-making. If there's a perception that the media isn't doing its job to scrutinize these influences, it further erodes trust in U.S. policy abroad. Diplomacy relies on clarity and perceived impartiality, and these allegations, particularly involving President Trump's actions, complicate every negotiation and alliance. It fuels skepticism about U.S. motives and can be exploited by those who seek to undermine American leadership.
It's a really challenging situation. For the public to trust the decisions made by the White House, they must also trust that the information informing those decisions and the reporting on them is comprehensive and unbiased.
An absolutely vital discussion. Thank you, Andre and Maya, for shedding light on those critical angles. Now for our final topic, let's turn to something that impacts every single one of us: energy policy and the environment. Former Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd recently issued a warning about green energy policies. He cautioned that they risk losing public support without tangible benefits, explicitly citing the Trump administration's rollback of green initiatives as a cautionary tale. Nadia, this is a stark reminder of the political tightrope for climate action.
It really is, Chris. Rudd's message, coming from a progressive leader, is a crucial one. It's not about abandoning green energy, but about ensuring that the transition is just and beneficial for everyone. The Trump administration's rollbacks showed us what happens when environmental policies are seen as elitist or detrimental to working-class communities. If green initiatives don't deliver affordable prices, reliable energy supply, and new job opportunities, they'll struggle to gain the widespread public support needed for long-term policy continuity. It's about making the green transition an economic opportunity, not just an environmental imperative.
That's a great point. It's not enough to simply be right on climate science. Policy has to resonate with the everyday concerns of voters. The pushback against policies perceived as raising costs or eliminating jobs, even if those jobs are in fossil fuels, is a political reality that climate advocates and policymakers have to confront head-on. President Trump has repeatedly leveraged these concerns to his political advantage, making it clear that the messaging and tangible benefits are just as important as the policy itself.
Exactly. We have to demonstrate that green energy isn't just about saving the planet, which is vital, but also about creating a more stable, prosperous, and healthier future for people right now. It's about good jobs, lower utility bills, and cleaner air in communities that have historically borne the brunt of pollution. Without those tangible benefits, the political will simply won't sustain the necessary changes.
And that's a challenge that progressive movements face across many issues. How do you articulate the long-term vision while addressing the immediate needs and concerns of the electorate? It's a balance that's clearly still elusive for many. Nadia, your final thoughts on today's discussions?
Chris, what strikes me today is the interconnectedness of these issues. Whether it's the legality of our voting maps, the integrity of our media, or the future of our energy, each story underscores the fragility and constant need for vigilance in our democratic systems. We have to keep asking critical questions, holding power accountable, and fighting for a more just and equitable future. That's what Democracy Roundtable is all about.
Couldn't agree more, Nadia. And that's all the time we have for today's Democracy Roundtable. My thanks to Nadia, Sarah, Andre, and Maya for their invaluable insights. We'll be back next week to continue these vital conversations. Until then, stay informed and stay engaged.